My guest today is Phil Stutz. He is the author of The Tools, of Coming Alive, and of his latest book, Lessons for Living. This is a really special interview for me because after reading Lessons for Living, my entire life changed. All of the principles in his book got me going so that now I am playing piano. Now I'm writing a book. Now I am lifting weights. These are things I've been wanting to do for years. And reading this book just woke me up. And what Phil says, it's the little things that we do every day. And I would say the little things we do that don't betray ourselves, the little things we do that move us forward, that helps us connect with the higher forces. And so you should have seen me before this interview. I was so nervous and I was like a little girl meeting Santa Claus or something. It was so exciting and so daunting for me. He understands what our world needs to do to transform ourselves and to transform society. So this is wisdom in 40 minutes. I'm going to read his bio right now. Phil Stutz is the creator of The Tools. With his co-author, Barry Michels, he wrote the New York Times bestseller, The Tools, and its sequel, Coming Alive. And he also wrote Lessons for Living. Phil graduated from City College in New York, received his MD from New York University, and did his psychiatric training at Metropolitan Hospital. He then worked as a prison psychiatrist on Rikers Island before going into private practice in New York City. He moved to Los Angeles in 1982, where he has been practicing ever since. Phil Stutz, welcome to Compassion in Action.
Thank you.
Okay, this interview is like a dream come true. This book is the best thing you've ever done, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
It's better than Stutz, it's better than Coming Alive, and it's better than The Tools because it tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
And Stutz, The Tools, and Coming Alive are amazing. So
Good. I think I'm going to stay in this field then. I was going to
would it be strange to say that you're a shaman? Would that be a strange thing to say?
You know, people say it sometimes. I try to stay away from that because really, I try to draw an outline of habits, attitudes, risks, and other stuff like that. And I don't want to. I don't want to convey to the. I don't know if you call them patients anymore, whatever you call them. I don't want the magic conveyed to them. I know those terms. I'll tell you that this. Well, just stop me if this is going too far off the track. But there are two kinds of magic. There's fake magic and there's real magic. Real magic must be developed and expressed as a collective. No singular person can do any magic at all. All I can do is bullshit themselves. And that's the fake magic. And the fake magic says, I'm special because I have these abilities. And all you are is a hustler. So we can go back to that if you want to. There's so much. Anyway, go ahead. Ask me the next.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a quote because I think this is it. And you know I work with the men and women in prison.
Yes.
So
where is the prison?
I work with prisons all over the United States, but right now I'm working with about 12 to 14 of them in California.
You live in California?
I live in California, but I grew up on the Upper West Side, 72nd Riverside.
You are shitting me.
No.
I grew up in 37 Riverside Drive. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
So we were probably at Zabar's at the same time, or Fairway, or the Ortiz funeral home.
Yeah, it is. I didn't like that.
Or Gray's Papaya.
Oh, the Papaya on 72nd Street?
Yeah.
Wow, I hope this doesn't distract me too much. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, so, one of your, I have about 3,000 quotes that I've pulled out, but you say, the highest human expression is to create something new in the face of adversity. The greater the adversity, the greater the opportunity.
Right. You want me to explain that or not?
Yes, please.
Okay. Nothing a human being accomplishes is accomplished alone. I already mentioned that. So the idea that um, you can find your way back into this collective force, if you will, after you've lost faith in it, that's like a rebirth. And what it does is it starts to change your gut feeling, your view of the universe, really. So you get much more out of a failure, a loss that you correct. Because in order to do that, you have to connect to the forces of rebirth, and those forces don't exist without a prior failure. So if you think about it like this success, the way we think of it in the Western world, which is just more money, more power, more prestige, whatever. And then there's real success. The success is, if you think of success as a force, like as a you need to think of success as like a physicalized thing. It's like some kind of a force running through the universe. All success is being able to stay connected to that force, and you cannot do that unless you're simultaneously in outflow towards other people.
When we're in outflow, is that the act of creating? Is that what you're saying, or
No, I'm saying
connecting?
that's the precondition, which means you're plugged into higher forces. And from there, then you might have the freedom or the privilege of actually creating something. You'll create nothing if you think you're doing it without the help without the help of some kind of higher force. The next book I'm going to write is about that. It's called Embodiment. And it's a very interesting thing because embodiment says you cannot create anything of real value, of lasting value, without the help of higher forces. You just can't do it. It's not a philosophical thing. It's impossible. So embodiment, people think embodiment means getting some kind of shaman or some kind of magical figure inside them. That's not right. Embodiment means the both of you, the higher force and you, the human being, have to be on the same team, in sync with each other, and that's what you have to embody. So, and there are the tools, and how do you do that? But to go back to the beginning of your first question, only that allows real creativity. And the reason the world is falling apart is because people don't understand this. Because they don't understand it, they're just going for they go for the fake.
It's the bad habits, right? So I think
Yes,
it's the bad habits, and it's going to the lower channel because Part X puts us in an altered state,
yes, correct.
right? So it's Part X. Can you give us a little information about what Part X is? Because I think everyone in prison has been hypnotized by Part X.
Yeah, yeah. I would see people, my patients, trying, certain ones of them, maybe 85% of them were blocked. They tried to do this, they couldn't do it. They should. Even the inability to control your impulses is a form of being blocked.
Mm.
I was noticing it. I didn't know what was going on, but I started to get the feeling, hey, there's somebody on the other team working against us and proactively working against us. You see, it drove me crazy and most friends crazy because we tried to explain it, the blocking force, in terms of our past history, in terms of our addictions. And those things are really important, but they are secondary. And the first thing somebody told me, give it a name, and it was very helpful. Actually, it was my partner Barry's mother, if I remember correctly, who said call it Part X. So I started out just by labeling it, identifying it, and then I would say to the patient, just humor me, act as if this thing, this enemy is real. At first, most of them didn't think it was real. They thought it was just another psychological trick. But with the simple act of naming, identification, and then giving them something, it didn't even matter what it was, giving them something that they could use so they went home, they had some hope. Nobody will stay in real therapy without hope. They just won't do it.
Part X puts us in an altered state.
Yes. Okay, so here's what the altered state is. I mean, there are many ways to describe this, but I think probably the best way is to say it's an altered state in which things that don't exist or don't deliver what they're saying make you think that that's reality. So Part X gives you a problem you don't need to have, and then it gives you a solution that makes the problem worse. So the classic example of that is somebody who's going to smoke a joint or whatever, and they're going to have a real feeling. It feels pleasurable, whatever. However, that's not a real feeling. All that is the force of addiction. It's like the lower world is like trying to pull you down, and then when it pulls you down, it tells you this is reality. So the idea that it creates a problem you don't need to have, and then a solution that makes the problem worse, that most people can understand because they know at certain points they're doing things they have no idea why they're doing them. You can see it pretty clearly in addictions where somebody, here's an example, maybe it'll apply to the current population we're talking about. If you take a junkie and he's about to shoot up, he's not thinking about anything else, and he's certainly not thinking about the future consequences of what he's doing. It's like, I know the needle's in my arm, and I know within 30 seconds, maybe it's a bad load, maybe a minute, whatever it is, boom, I'm going to feel great. However, the greatness that you feel isn't real, and it's not going to last. Not only isn't it going to last, it's going to make everything worse, and that's obvious, right? Legal problems, health problems, which is the worst thing, inability to control impulses, etc., etc. These are products of Part X. But they're sold to you as the greatest thing in the world. Now, the junk, he's not thinking, what's the truth, okay? He feels great. Let's say, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's for 45 minutes. After that, the next thing he's going to feel is beginning to get sick, or whatever words you want to use. He's starting to feel, I need more. And beyond that, then if he's honest with himself, it's like seeing the future. I'm addicted to this. I can't let go of it. And I'm getting sick. Now then what? I got to get out and mug somebody. Do something so I can pay for this chunk. And at the time when they're getting high, they don't admit that to themselves. All they know about is the next 30 seconds or the next minute.
It destroys lives. My father was an alcoholic, and they smoked and they destroyed their lives all for this instant gratification. And what you say is that we lose our sense of the future. These consequences are detrimental because we have no connection to our true self, and we're on a lower channel.
Now, you want to know the thing about faith? You're interested in that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
People don't understand what faith is, and you need faith to fight Part X. If you're in the program, you have no faith, you're not going to work the program. Boom, it's not going to help. So that thing, faith, the secret of it is you have faith in the future, in God, and in yourself, whatever. Not because it's proven, not because it's logical. You have that kind of faith because you've chosen to have it for no reason. That's the secret of it. You've chosen to have it for no reason, but you still have it. Now, if you have that kind of faith, which is kind of unshakable, it's unbreakable because it doesn't require anything from the outside world. It's kind of like, well, maybe I'm crazy for doing this, but at least I know that I have faith. That's it. Once I've done that, then I must act. But because I have faith, and for no other reason, not because I think that I'm going to succeed. Once I have faith, I can start to act. Once I do this and I make it a lifestyle over and over and over again, then you become confident. So confidence is the result of acting with faith in situations that don't give you any proof of it at all, but it'll affect your ability, it'll increase your ability to take action. See, most people have it upside down and backwards. What they say is, I don't believe anything until it's proven. Now, that's good if you're a scientist or, a biochemist or something. You're studying astronomy. But the idea that my belief requires proof in any arena that has to do with human beings is a disaster, because proof is not as clear-cut as you might think. And if the universe doesn't act to support your model, which is, I believe, nothing, then every time there's no proof, you get thrown back into the doubt. Upshot of that, till things are proven, is if you're lucky, you'll get the feeling of, I'm smarter than everybody else. It makes me special.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not lucky, then you have nothing, because the universe has failed to prove it in your own mind. It's looking for some experience that is greater than faith, and that's where science came in. But there isn't any.
So faith is the key to taking action, because once you take action, from what I can tell, you're starting to activate or connect to the higher forces.
Very good.
But if you're in doubt, you don't even take that act. You don't even experiment. And the thing here is, from what I can tell, and this is what you did for me, I read your book. You got me to act on so many levels. I started playing piano. I started writing a book. I started lifting weights. I've been wanting to do this for maybe 10 years. And I read your book in November, and I'm still doing the weights. I'm still writing the book, and I'm still playing piano. It's all happening, and it's like I'm connecting more and more to this kind of energy, this force that I didn't have before. And I do because I do take action a lot. I do, like going to work in prisons. I took action. I did it, and it has propelled me. But there's always this part of me that wants to just go play video games. It just wants to stop and go play video games, and I'll just do that instead. And now I'm playing the piano instead. But it was your words to showing me what I was doing to myself, of being in these lower channels, which you can feel it. You feel gunky. You feel like crap.
Yes, and there's no way out of that, because you're waiting for the universe to corroborate to corroborate what you think you need to become confident. And that's a long wait for that to happen. The worst thing that can happen is if you get lucky and a couple of good things happen to you. They always run out. Because I treat the most famous people in the world, so I know. But you're waiting. See, waiting is the worst of the human qualities.
And it's like the maze, right? Waiting is like the maze.
Well, the maze is more, the attack by part X than the maze is more, it's stronger. Think of the maze and it's something you go in and then you can't get out of it. And the reason you can't get out of it is because you need something from the other person to free you. Now, nothing could be weaker or more stupid than that. So what we try to do is counteract the maze, or get you out of the maze, by fully accepting the fact that the only person who's going to save you is yourself, and the only way you can save yourself is by the tools. That's the beauty of the tools. They allow you to make changes that nothing else could allow you to make. And the reason that our society is so addicted and really out of touch with reality and out of control is because they're waiting for somebody else to get them out of the maze, and it never happened in human history.
So society is in a maze too, right? So we're,
Yes,
and one of the things you say about the maze, you say your quest for fairness puts your life on hold.
yeah, that's
And yeah, go
it's
ahead.
the waiting. It says somebody did something to me, they injured me. It's not fair. They always say, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not changing anything. I'm not taking any risk until they pay me. And usually the payment is an apology or something. But the whole thing is bullshit, and it doesn't even matter who injures you. Your sense of being trapped will extend to the whole. It's every human being, really.
Yeah. And you also say, do you want to be right or do you want to create something?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Because being
Yeah.
right, even if you are right, there's no openness to it. There's no surprise to it. There's nothing new. So even if this worked, which believe me, it doesn't, it still doesn't. It doesn't help you.
It doesn't move you along. And it, it, there's a thing about the maze. It's like the victim. There's a victim in the maze.
Yes,
Look what the world has done to me, and therefore I need to get, like you said, I need to get paid. But victims don't move forward, don't move the world forward. And
correct.
I think every time I feel like someone owes me, I just keep thinking about that they owe me. I'm not out writing, I'm not out playing the piano. I'm just thinking about what they've done to me.
Yeah, and they don't care.
They don't care, but that's what's happening in Gaza, right?
Yep,
They're just thinking about look what they did to me, and so they're just destroying. They're continuing to destroy instead of create here.
that's right. The antidote to evil is creativity.
Ezra from a maximum security prison, he wrote a question, and it's about evil. And he says,
Who is this?
he's a man in prison that read your book
Ah,
that I sent the book to you, and he's written some questions, and
okay.
he's an artist. He plays guitar, and he's a leader within the prisons. And he says, you talk of Part X, and essentially it is the force that wants to keep you inert, stuck, preferably moving backwards. Is this Part X, when out of control, could be considered where evil is birthed from, since essentially it is what tries to keep mankind from ascension? Is it the sinner aspect of the human condition as opposed to the saint aspect inherent in each of us?
Tell this guy I said I love him. Um, he asked the question again.
Well, basically, is he saying Part X? Is Part X the evil part of us? Is that what creates evil?
Well, here's the way I look at it. These things are very deep and they're very complex. First of all, there's a Part X on a junior level, like on a personal level, like you smoke too much, or I scream too much, whatever. Um, my habits are bad. So that's Part X with a small x, and that's the result of all this stuff we've talked about. There's a higher level of evil, if you will, that's not personal. It's a force whose nature is more like any other physical force, because of that, it has a life of its own, and there's not much you can do about it. You might kid yourself if someone apologizes to me, but it won't work. The only way to make this work is the whole system, how you experience other people, what you expect from them, how you react when you don't get what you expected, how you deal with somebody else who's a victim, all these things. These are micro things, and that's the level in which the battle is fought. There's a battle between good and evil, and we have no chance of winning the battle unless we accept what's really going on. And again, what's not going on, what doesn't work, is any kind of proof that you're right. And so that's the booby prize of all booby prizes.
I think we're all hypnotized, and by not living up to our potential, we're falling into the cracks of evil.
Yeah,
Is that
That's
Is
it.
that it?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Evil doesn't want to kill you. It doesn't want to eliminate you. That would be for rookies. What evil wants to do is let you live, completely stripped of all your potential, stripped of any sense of what do you call it, possibility. Then it has you. You know, they say in the old days, it's captured your soul. And the soul is like the human organism without the forces of courage, vision, honesty, love for other people. If you take all those things away, it's like taking the person's soul away. Then they'll do whatever you want. And you just look at the world and you see it. And by the way, the only cure for that is to develop like a cadre of people who are working on themselves to refute the lies that Cornix is giving them. And that takes a lot of people and a lot of work. And most of the work is done, I call it the world of small things. It's work that has to be done over and over and over a trillion times. And most of them are very tiny. A lot of times it's, am I going to give into this impulse or not? I want to give into it because I want to get it, whatever I want to get it. I want to get higher. I want to steal a thing. I want to hit, beat my wife or whatever. And part X, if you can't control that force, then it's taken away your soul. And by doing that, you become like a vegetable. You become a spiritual vegetable. It's not obvious to you. All you feel is the craving. But that's what's actually happened. So that's the macro war. And the next book is going to be about that. Go ahead.
But so you're saying it's the little things and they add up. So every little choice is important. So every time I don't eat that piece of cake, every time I don't play that video game, I'm putting myself into the higher forces, but I'm also beating part X and I'm getting my soul back.
That's it.
So I'm getting my soul back. And that's what's in prison right now, or is part X. We have betrayed ourselves so much. So that's what it is. It's betrayal. These little decisions towards the evil are betrayal, and these little decisions towards good and love and towards our own development is self-worth and puts us in the higher realm. Is that right? And the higher forces.
Exactly right.
Defeating part X, the part that got us into prison, and the prison is also, it could be physical prison. We're all in a mental prison. I'm sitting playing video games all day long instead of remembering who I am.
Listen carefully. You have to, because you're kind of already enlightened to this. I don't know how you did it, but maybe it's natural. You have to now say after this interview, from now on, not only am I going to do what I've been doing, I'm going to step it up. But not step it up 92%. I'm going to step it up 2%. So like if I have 6 drinks a day, let me see if I can go down to 5 drinks a day. Now, in and of itself, it doesn't help. But over long periods of time where you're willing to face every choice, it puts you right in the present, which is where the fight is. So it's another way to look at it. See, the reason psychotherapy was like a fucking joke, it's getting better now, by the way. And it's still no good, but it's getting... They would tell you, well, do you understand your bad habits are because your mother didn't like you or whatever it is, or you grew up poor, or you didn't go to Harvard. It doesn't matter. Yeah, see, there are 2 marks of character. One of them is this: the humans are capable, not of changing everything in one fell swoop. They're not capable of that, but they are capable of making a single choice today, right now. They don't know that they are, but they are. And as I said at the beginning, the idea of labeling it, knowing some of its qualities, seeing that it repeats itself is very helpful. Not because it makes the problem go away. Anybody that tells you anything about magic, this is going to make you feel better, that's going to, they're just full of shit. And I see a lot in my field, not just shrinks, but what do they call that?
The coaches?
Yeah, the coaches, that's it. That's knowledge, one, about human beings, is they are capable of changing tiny things. The second gift that we're all given is the ability to recover. So that means you go into the darkness and think you're dead, and you have no future, whatever. And what I tell people is that's okay and that's real, but you also have the ability to overcome it.
It's just the people in prison, if they're going to be hearing this, and they're going to hear this amazing man saying, you can recover from this. You can recover from your betrayal and your dark side.
Yes. What
Yes.
age group are we talking about?
We're talking about everybody. I'm working with everybody in prison, all women, all men, all ages.
That's
And
your full-time job.
I created an institution called an organization called the Compassion Prison Project. So it's to bring compassion, but also awareness about what violence does to us, and transforming violence. We're transforming violence. That's what we're doing.
Great, it's impressive. But anyway, what
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to say is, you have this, and I don't just say that to anybody. Some people don't. They can learn it, but you have it. And anytime you get an impulse or you get a instinct to do something, do it immediately. That's called speed. Once you know you have to do something, the more time that you allow to elapse without doing it, the weaker you become. So speed is like a precedential. It almost has to be part of the culture of people who are really trying to change.
Thank you. I'm going to say that when people say, what you just, this is another thing you're starting. Stop it. We're overwhelmed. It's like, I don't care. Let's keep going. We got to go.
That's it. That's exactly right. And you can say that with all due respect, maybe I can see this from a different perspective than you do, but at least try it. And if it doesn't work, I say give it another 2 weeks or a month, and then it's done. If what I'm telling you doesn't work, you should fire me.
Yes, but I'm the leader of the organization. They can't fire me.
And is this optional for the inmates? How does that work?
Well, this is going on the tablets. They have tablets now. And we're going to bring them as much help as we can.
Oh, you want this to spread out to the whole country?
Yes. All prisons.
Okay. Because
Everyone who's incarcerated, because they have families. This ripples out to their communities.
yes.
We help them, they help them.
Okay. You should call me in a year, or maybe 9 months.
Okay.
But I don't want to hear about anything except initiatives you've taken. And I don't care if every single guy then says you're an idiot. I don't care. It's we're going to have a relatively long time period, totally focused on action, no excuses. And if one person is left after that 3 months, that's great. So
One person's left at my organization, or
yes, yes, that's right.
yeah, well, you'll see. It's action all the time. You're right. It is. That's what I'm doing. I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping till we shift this whole prison system.
Yeah, and if anybody tells you it's impossible, you'd very politely tell them, go yourself. Because it's a war, that's the end.
It's urgent. We can't wait any longer.
Yeah, that's where speed comes in. Yeah.
That's right. And
And listen, anytime you get a chance to speak in front of non-incarcerated people, you have to do it.
okay.
You have to do it on all levels.
That's why this is a podcast for the people in prison and the people that are in society that are in prison.
Yeah.
So I've kind of summarized your work in this one sentence, and what I get is it is a mandate that we stop seeking instant gratification so we can realize who we are, get in touch with higher forces and our own spirituality so we can tap into our potential, and in doing so, help society tap into its own potential.
Yeah. That's partially, that's going to be the next book that I'm writing. Partially, but the point of it is everything we do, if you want it to be real, or if you want it to have a real impact, nothing else matters except impact. If somebody reads my books and I see they have an intellectual relationship with them, I try to say it politely, and I'm getting tired of being so polite, but I'll say, you know, your f***ing mind, you have a gold mine in here, you're not even putting your big toe in it. And I don't care how smart you are. That's one of the psychiatric world, which is still kind of like a joke, but much better than it was.
Well, just that what you're saying, you were saying about how your book is about society tapping to its own potential when we tap into our own.
Everything that's real, every period of growth, every accomplishment, every family that works, all represent a refutation of the idea that we're completely blocked and limited. So part X over here says, don't bother. You can't overcome this. And then to give you some explanations of why you can't overcome it. But basically, part X is the avatar of the impossibility. And creativity is the opposite. It says something more is possible here. So it's that which we thought was impossible. Well, we were wrong. It's actually possible. But not because I told you so or anybody. It's because you've experienced it. And you can't experience it, obviously, without action. So that's a way of looking at this, to say God gave us certain potential. He didn't give us the whole package. He gave us certain potential. And we can only reach that potential when we are connected horizontally, which means with other people and whatever your group that you identify with, and vertically, which is with God. You can't do nothing without that, so don't forget about it. And I have, as a shrink, I mean, I'm retired now, but guys would come in and they were like 52 years old and multi-rich and famous. They knew nothing, and every one of them went through hell. The ones that stayed with it, that chose to have faith in it, did really well. It's not their life was easy, but they realized they saw they could escape from part X, even for one day. So creativity, you could define it as the ability to find a force that the world is telling you doesn't exist. That's a good way to say it. And you recognize it when you look at things and all of a sudden you're looking at something in a completely different manner than you were before, and you don't really know why, and you shouldn't know why. It's none of your business. I had another revelation. It's probably what I was talking about. Yeah, I don't want to get into politics, but when you see the politicians on television, they're making outrageous claims, and they're just lying, and they're following. You have this. They're very certain. They're very sure of what they're saying, even though most of what they're saying is ridiculous. Why is that? And if you see when someone will interview one of these people, it's both on the left and the right. I think it's more on the right, but it's on both sides. And you're watching it and you're saying, how could this person believe what he's saying? It's impossible. And the answer is, he doesn't believe what he's saying. He doesn't care. He's not into it to find out what's going on or to help other people. He's not. It's like somebody going to the movies. He just wants to go to the movies and see the same movie every day for the rest of his life. And that means no change. And then these people sound like such idiots because they're, and on their own terms, they're doing the right thing, which is corroborating the fact that nothing can change. So they want to come to a, let's say, political rally to hear the same thing over and over and over and over. And the only way you can beat that is to make people more interested in reality and less interested in going to the movies. And that's a very hard thing for people to accept.
Well, change is petrifying, right?
Yes.
Change means that it's not going to be like it is, even though what is isn't so great. At least we know what is. And for me, what transformation, the possibility of transformation is, we can create a world that actually honors the integrity and the spirit of who we truly are.
Yeah, or we're going to be eliminated.
Exactly. Or we're going to destroy ourselves. Another quote by you: the secret of higher of the higher system is to make every day you live, every action you take personally meaningful. It is this sense of meaning that becomes your energy source.
That's why we talked about this world of small things. See, on the level of forces of, but let's just say that in the world of higher forces, there's no difference between the smallest action you take and the biggest action. From that point, think of it. I mean, here's, let's say, some kind of a being up there that's watching us. Let's say 35 billion years or 500 billion years. It doesn't give a shit what happens tomorrow. That's not. God has only one interest, and that's human beings. And human beings are like his hobby, so to speak. Anything he does that advances the soul of the human being makes him happy. Anything that doesn't makes him very unhappy, which is fine. But it's hard for human beings to believe that God has made them into his project. It's almost impossible to believe it. But if you look carefully, it starts to make more and more sense. That's why those two pyramids, if you use the pyramid that demands proof, that has no faith, God will say, look, I'm going to have to order a ham sandwich. You're not with this. Come back in 10,000 years and you're...
Yes. Yes, have faith and act. That's really the world. Act to discover who you are, right? So it is in the action and in the connection that we're making with each other in our actions that help us learn who we are.
That's right.
Right? Isn't that why we're here?
No, we're here to experience what we suspect but can't be proven. That we have certain abilities, and God, it's his greatest pleasure to bring out those abilities. See, not so you can understand them, only that you can feel them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't know enough.
I'm with you.
This was good.
Thank you so much.
Pay no attention to anybody. Trust your own instincts. Act quickly. And just think that it's not like there's 6 million people that can talk the way you talk. There aren't. I finally realized that about myself. I was waiting for somebody else to come along on that.
Yeah, you're the only one who can say it.
Yeah, I realized that in this war, I was a principal in it. And it shocked me, but it's true.
Well, I'm one of your soldiers now.
Good. All right, that's...
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
I
hope what?
Do your homework now.
I will.
Okay.
Act and don't wait.
That's right. And assume your instincts have an intelligence to them as well.
I will. Thank you.
Did you go to public school?
I went to PS 199, and then my mother got me out because she didn't like all the fights that were going on. And then, but I wanted to be in a gang. I wanted to, just be a bad kid. Yeah, I was full of it. The Irish gangs and the Italian gangs.
Where did you hang around? Those kids?
Well, that was in the village where I went to high school, so that's where the gangs were. So,
what high school did you live?
Elizabeth Irwin. There was just this little.
How would that exist? Was that like an art school or something?
Yeah, it was.
There used to be this school downtown. What was it in? These girls were like 14 years old, and they had the short skirts and they were dressed all in black, and they were smoking joints. I was scared to walk on that block, actually. That was Mabel
that sounds like
Bacon. Did you ever hear that one?
Which one?
Mabel Dean Bacon.
No.
That was serious. Okay.
Growing up in New York was serious.
Okay. It was just fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil Stutz, for such an incredible interview. One of the things that you talk about in Lessons for Living is that time is sacred and that we have forgotten that time is sacred. And speaking with you is a reminder of how important it is to get going on our projects, take risks, get out there, take action, and to remember that time is sacred. It's such an honor to have spoken with you. I've admired your work for the past year now, and to have your wisdom and your insights and your encouragement was such a gift to me. I am looking forward to your next book. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to support our work, please visit our website at compassionprisonproject.org. And please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.